The echoes of the warden's last words reverberated in Ethan's mind as he and Lyra stepped cautiously through the crumbling ruins. The pulse of ancient magic still hung thick in the air, like an invisible weight pressing down on them. Every step felt heavier, as if the very ground beneath their feet was reluctant to let them go. "We're not safe yet," Lyra murmured, her eyes scanning the shadows, ever watchful. Ethan nodded, his grip tightening around his sword. The warden's warning had sent a chill through his spine that hadn't eased. The shards of power were their only hope, but the path to finding them felt like an impossible task. How could they even begin to search for something so ancient, so lost to time? "How do we even know where to start?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra glanced back at him, her face set with determination. "We follow what the warden said. We find the shards, but we'll need more than just a map. We'll need allies. Information. We can't do this alone." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Allies? Who would help us after all this? I don't know, but I'm sure we'll find someone. The world hasn't forgotten the old ways entirely. There are those who still remember. Their journey took them out of the ruins into the barren landscape beyond. The sun, now low in the sky, cast long shadows across the land. Ethan felt the weight of their new mission settling heavily on his shoulders. They weren't just trying to survive anymore, they were trying to save the world. And the more he thought about it, the more it felt like a dream, an impossible task. As they walked, Lyra suddenly halted, her sharp eyes catching a movement in the distance. Ethan followed her gaze, but all he saw was a dusted dirt road stretching toward a distant forest. For a moment, he thought it was nothing, but then he felt of a same presence that had been haunting him since the monarch's destruction. "Simone's following us," Lyra said, her voice low and cautious. Ethan immediately reached for his sword, his senses alert. "How many?" Lyra's gaze was fixed on the trees ahead, the air crackling with tension. "I can't tell, but we need to be ready." They moved off the road and into a small grove of trees, hiding themselves in the thick underbrush. Ethan's heart raced as he tried to steady his breath. His mind raced with possibilities, the enemies, allies, someone seeking to claim the shards for themselves. Seconds turned into minutes, and still no one appeared. But the feeling of being watched persisted. "It's not just one," Lyra whispered, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the surrounding woods. "There are more." A rustling sound came from the underbrush, and without warning, a figure stepped into view. Clad in dark, weathered clothing, the stranger's face was partially obscured by a hood, but his posture was confident, unafraid. He was not a soldier, but there was something about him, something ancient, like a relic of a forgotten past. Ethan tensed, ready to draw his blade, but the stranger held up a hand in a gesture of peace. "Easy," the man said, his voice rough but steady. "I'm not here to fight." "Then what are you here for?" Ethan asked, his sword still drawn, though he held it at his side. The stranger steadied them both with piercing blue eyes. "You've awakened the warden. That much I can feel, and I know why you're here. You're after the shards. Aren't you?" Lyra's gaze flicked to Ethan, her eyes filled with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. "How do you know that?" The man smirked, stepping closer. "Because I've been looking for them too." Ethan's grip on his sword tightened, his instincts flaring. "You've been searching for the shards. What's your gain?" "I'm not your enemy," the man replied, holding up his hands in a placating gesture. "I've spent years tracking down ancient artifacts, trying to piece together the lost history of this land. And now I see you already found the first piece of the puzzle, the monolith. But it's only the beginning. The shards are the key. Together, we can stop what's coming." Ethan lowered his sword slightly, eyeing the man warily. "And why should we trust you?" The stranger's smile faded. "Because you don't have a choice. We're all running out of time. The darkness is stirring, just like the warden said. It's already spreading, and you can't stop it alone." Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Who are you?" The man hesitated for a moment before replying, "Imagine, a scholar of the old ways, and I'm offering you my help." Ethan studied Ashen carefully, weighing the words. He wasn't sure what to make of the man, but one thing was certain: time was running out. They can't afford to be too cautious, not now. If Ashen knew something they didn't, if he could help them find the shards. "All right," Ethan said, sheathing his sword. "Well, listen, but if you try anything," Ashen held up his hands again. "I get it. But believe me, I'm not your enemy." For the first time in what felt like days, a flicker of hope stirred within Ethan. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't alone in this fight after all. "Then let's get moving," Lyra said, her tone resolute. "The shards are to find themselves." Ashen nodded. "I know where the first one is. But it won't be easy to reach, led the way, Ethan replied. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the shadows around them grew longer, and the air became thick with the scent of earth and magic. Ethan Calvin shaped the feeling that the real journey was just beginning. The darkness, though still distant, was drawing closer with every passing step.